On the phone line in California, bright and early, Mr. Chris Shannon. Hello.
Good morning, guys. Good morning, Yes FM. Yeah, you're not kidding. It is bright and early out here. The sun's just coming up. I've got my coffee, and I'm trying to wake up. I'm working on it. I'm not used to getting up this early, even back in the day when I was working with you. All back in the Groove House days and stuff. It'd be like, man, people get up this early for a reason, and then, so I'm wide awake. Wide awake. Good morning, all.
Good morning. You know, I just had the pleasure of speaking with your mother. She just called in.
I heard about that.
Also joining us.
Actually, it was funny. She just sent me a text a minute ago. She said that she was just talking to Matt. So Matt, I'm sorry about that.
Hey, it's okay. She was
kidding.
Asked me if I could Facebook Live with her. She wanted to show us the baby pictures and everything too. So
we've got some other stuff though, Chris. We've got some other stuff, some audio. But we want to also let you know Tommy's in studio with us as well.
What's up, Chris?
Hey, Tommy. Tommy, good morning. How are you?
Good. I haven't talked to you in a long time. It's good to talk to you.
I know, same here. I've been. It was fun because it was interesting because when the 25th anniversary thing rolled around earlier this year and the announcement came up, and I was kind of hearing about this whole thing in little splashes here and there about what was going on, the significance of this year. I was going back and looking at some old pictures. And it was interesting and catching up with everything. It was like, man, it seems weird to believe it's been 25 years. And then some of the jocks, Tommy, you included, I just haven't had a chance to catch up with him for so long because we all work together and then went our different ways and everything. But there's always a fondness. You know what I mean? There's always a fondness in going back and reliving some of this stuff. And I know myself and Craig and Chad, Sean Powers, all of us have just been, exchanging like crazy on social media and going back and re-listening to audio and seeing old pictures and hearing old audio. It's been good. It's been really nice. I think it's been 25 years. It's really affected all of us former hosts yet, too. So it's been, this has been nice. And Tommy, with you, it's good catching up with you again, sir.
Yeah, I was, they said you were going to be on. I had to pop on because I had to tell a story. One of the first, when I first came on with the SFM, I was doing some things on Tuesday mornings. They said, hey, we want you to do an occasional shift or so. I said, okay. And they said, why don't you sit in with Chris and watch what he does, just kind of get a feel for how you run a shift. So, Chris, now under our old system, it was a little more complex than what we have right now. So Chris would get on, and he'd talk to a listener, and then he'd get off, and he'd push about 378 buttons. As soon as he got out there, somebody would call in, he'd decide to record the call or something. He'd be pushing buttons, turning this on, turning that off, booting this up, turning this down, doing like 8 million things in between the times he's getting on the air. And the whole time he's telling me, don't worry about this, you're not going to have to do most of this. I'm like, I'm glad because I got no idea what you're doing. All I know is you were just a blur of motions. Every button that could be pushed, you pushed.
That was the way it was for me, too, because I mean, when Chris stepped down, I was the one to take his shifts. And not only, on air, but in production, too. And to seeing both, and I'm like, what did I just do?
I know. It's like starting up a nuclear reactor.
It was. He would, take, calls off the air and record them and pop them back on and play them on the air and all in, 30 seconds. It was, insane. So I was like, I'm not sure I can do this job.
No. Well, it was fun, though, because back then, it was the timing and everything. Everything came down to time. And I remember we had one computer that would record just the phone calls and play commercials. And we had another computer that was called Stinger. So for listeners who really aren't too familiar with radio stations, there was two computers that we really, really heavily relied on. One was commercial, and the other was for recording phone calls, at least for me anyway, and I think a lot of the DJs did. But I relied heavily on listener interaction. That was my whole thing. And then Stinger was for music beds and for sound effects. And so especially back in those days, because I was kind of notorious for sweeping listeners in between every call. So I had to pay attention. And Tommy, you kind of quickly caught on to this, where if a song had a fade, I can fade it at a certain time, but then fire off a listener call for, let's say the Hot 7 at 7 vote or something, and then make sure that it kind of nestled, sandwiched right in between two songs where it didn't cut off any of the music yet either, And then Tommy's looking at all this. There were a few people that were a little bit intimidated, but you kind of got the rhythm to it. It fit after a while. It took some practice, but you eventually kind of get up in there. But yeah, I'm sorry, Tommy.
You are a maestro on the computer. That's all I know.
Obviously, I can tell it traumatized you even as an adult, right? Talking about it to this day, Oh, man. Had no idea you got into that sort of thing. But
I think it's funny you think he's an adult.
Well, that's true.
Well,
man.
We are catching up with Chris Shannon, and Chris Shannon, the production dude here, and basically the evenings. For those of you just tuning in, that voice that you're hearing is Chris Shannon, and Chris was with Yes FM. What years were you with Yes FM, Chris? Remind us.
I came in, I'm going to feel so old saying this, April. I came in, I know, it's really weird, but I came in 96 and left 10 years later, so 2006, and then left Ohio altogether. So, 10 years worth. But it was really weird. It was a few minutes ago in the last segment, we were all talking about California and everything and being out here. And thanks a lot, Marge. Marge wrote on my Facebook wall, and she goes, okay, it's great to wake up, hear Yes FM, turn it on for the first time. She lives in your area. She's like, the first thing you hear is how warm and sunny it is in Cali. Thanks, Chris. Marge, you're welcome.
Mm-hmm. It's sunny here today. It's not warm, but we at least have sunshine.
Yeah, I know. Well, you guys have Cedar Point that's opening here soon. Now, I was telling Jeff last time we were all on together, because I haven't been to Cedar Point since Maverick opened, and I found out that Jeff and I would do media day every single year, and then to find out that never had our picture taken, and I had friends that worked there, and even bugged them to go on as like an extra in a TV commercial, and they said no. But then here comes Rob Kelly, and Mr. Clean goes on a roller coaster, and the Duke gets his picture taken, and Jeff said it's used everywhere. Are you nuts? Seriously? Not like I'm bitter or nothing, can you tell? All I ever wanted to do, thank you, caller, but all I ever wanted to do was go on and get a picture taken on one of my favorite coasters, and I never had a chance to do that. But I've got a lot of catching up to do. I've really got a chance to get back over that way. And it starts with Maverick, and it hits in with, like, Gatekeeper, and it hits in with the one that they put in last year. I still don't know how to pronounce it, because I think it's in a language that my tongue just don't work in. It's like Roo. That one, yeah, that one. So that one, what does that mean?
Don't throw up, I think is what it means. In Swahili.
Stick with the corn dogs and you'll be just fine.
Yes. Please don't throw up in Swahili.
That is right. Oh, gosh. Love you, Mom. I know that she called in. She talked to Matt a few minutes ago.
And she promised me that she was going to listen the whole time. And then she said, once you're off, she's got things to do.
That's Darla. We love her, though.
I'm impressed she's listening in. 700 Club is on.
Ouch.
I'm shocked. Thanks, Mom.
Well, Chris,
oh, well.
Oh, gosh. Chris, during your time here, I mean, some of the stuff that was coming out of the production department, because you were the production director, was just absolutely amazing. And we had Wrestling Night with Yes FM. Tommy was a part of that.
Yes.
Rob brought it in. Dustin Haas was just amazing. Mr. Tall, Lanky, Skinny Boy.
Well, Dustin and I were a tag team.
Yeah,
we were the Matchstick Men, and we were the Millennium Wrestling Federation Tag Team Champions for a good 10 minutes.
Congratulations. What does that belt look like?
It was nice. Hey, when I was carrying it out, the guys we were going to wrestle, I was like, we were carrying the belt out, and he says, now treat that with pride. He goes, they've never let me carry that belt. And all they used to he'd wrestled. So now, the way the match went, he ended up carrying it out later, but I still say the match was fixed. I don't know.
Well, Chris, tell us.
Tommy, there's a part of your story. Tommy, that reminds me of that old guy. He's talking about scoring the winning touchdown in high school with his letter jacket.
Yes.
He touched that belt for a few minutes, but then I had to grow up and have a family. But I was pretty cool. I had my fun. I was pretty cool with high school kids. You should have seen me. I was awesome.
Well, I had the video of the wrestling, and I showed it to my kids, and they were incredibly impressed.
Why is this not on YouTube?
I don't. Well, we can bring it in. But
I think my husband's got a copy of that too,
he does.
With contact. So
they wanted to know if I have ever wrestled John Cena, and I said no because he kept ducking me.
Well, Chris, I know that you collaborated with Rob Kelly on making a promo commercial or something like that, and you sent us some of the audio. So kind of talk us through what you guys were doing. We'll go ahead and play the clip.
We had a lot of fun. It was Well, back then, we were just sort of coming into the day of technology where we can stream across online and listen to a lot of different radio stations back then, and kind of get a sense and feel what other stations are doing. Back then, I spent a lot of time listening to top 40 stations in Los Angeles and New York because I always wanted Yes to sound like a market 1 and 2. I didn't want it to sound like an 80-some-odd market, which is kind of what Toledo is. But we always wanted it to sound big and we wanted it to sound full, and technology brought us to that point. And so there were a lot of days when we would just sit with and collaborate and just find out what was trendy, what was current, what was new back then. And a lot of times, most of the stuff kind of went unscripted. And Rob and I sat down. It was on a Friday night, and 1 week before that, we had the wrestling night. And so we were trying to figure out, okay, what do we want to do with this wrestling night thing? And so we just sat down, opened up both microphones, turned them both on, and said, let's just see what comes up with. Let's just have fun. Let's just do it. And Rob was cool with it, and so we sat down, and this is what we came up with.
All right.
Literally, we did this in 30 seconds. It was done completely unscripted. It was just off the cuff, and this was what it came out.
All right, so here's what it came out to be.
This Friday night, April 29th, 7 o'clock. Whoa, what is this?
We can get to the point already, brother. They want to know what's going on at the Friday night house party. Get to the point.
How did you get into my studio?
We've got a 20-man over-the-top rope battle royal featuring the superstars of the Millennium Wrestling Federation. We have a 4-quarter elimination tag team championship match featuring DJ Tommy Briggs and Dustin Scott of Yes FM. And don't forget the cruiserweights. They're putting it all on the line for the cruiserweight title.
Dude, where did you come from?
All that and more broadcast live on Yes FM.
That's
DJ
epic.
Tommy Briggs.
I need a copy of that. I definitely need a copy of that. Take that
We've
home.
got this on thumb drive. We'll get you a copy.
I'll make sure you get that, Tommy. Yeah, make sure you get a copy of that.
I relive my glory days.
That is amazing, Chris.
Half that stuff, I don't know what any of that stuff means. Like 4-corner elimination title wars. I don't know what any of that stuff means. It's like, I'm sure it means something, but we're going to go with it.
We'll have to ask Rob.
Hogan, but good deal.
It was pretty good.
So, but that's what we came up with that night. And then, of course, Tommy became a mega star. He's still talking about it to this day. He was awesome in high school.
My glory moment.
He's like reminiscing his, he's in his retirement or
My
something.
short-lived pro wrestling career.
DJ Tommy
does
Briggs.
that hurt? If you get like a body slam or something, were you body slammed on that?
I was body
slammed. Did you do the full thing?
I was body slammed. Yeah, they took us in before the match. A little bit, yeah, a little bit. They took us in before the match. They came in and set up the ring. The rings are very springy, obviously, because you got to bounce off them a little bit or you'd really get hurt. But they gave us about 20 minutes, Dustin and I, in the ring, and some basic tutorials and how to take a fall and how to do this and that. And so that's
basically
what we did.
Not how to break anything.
Yeah, how to do this without being too severely damaged. And so that's what we did. I learned how to get body slammed, and then Dustin got pinned.
No suplex?
Let me down. Well, I'm not saying it was his fault, but he's the one that got pinned and cost us the title. That's all I'm saying.
And there went your 10 minutes. Oh,
I know. I could still be the champion today, but, I love Dustin, but I'm bitter.
Well, I do have to give it to Rob, though, because I never knew this until, I think a little bit later than that there were people that I remember watching when, pro wrestling was back in its heyday in the 80s. And so here comes Macho Man, here comes Hulk Hogan. I found out that Rob actually wrestled against Honky Tonk Man, which is kind of a cool thing. It's like, no kidding, really?
Yeah.
That's
he wrestled with some of the big names.
Huge.
And he knew what he was doing
Rainbow
in there.
Warrior.
Tommy, I think it's time for a rematch.
Me and Rob get us in the ring.
I think it's time to come out of retirement.
His arthritic hip, my bad back. Here we go.
It's time for the winner from World of Wrestling.
It might take a while to wheel out that respirator, but...
Well, once again...
In this corner, here's Tommy. Like, wait a minute, I'm coming.
Yes. Help me out of the chair.
Once again, we're talking to Chris Shannon.
Fantastic match.
We're talking to Chris Shannon on the phone line. Mr. Chris Shannon, hello.
Hola. Hola. You know what's funny? I still get on occasion after it's been a few years since leaving Ohio, and I still get a lot of that Ola stuff. But I need to actually throw homage out to someone who actually started that back in high school. I went to school with someone, excuse me, who's John. I don't know if you're listening into this or not. I never actually told her this. I never actually admitted this yet. But back in high school, we all took Spanish, took 1-2 years of Spanish, and John Kunkel back then used to walk around, and she was known as like the Ola girl. I actually borrowed that from her. So, John, I know you listen in the station, and you may be listening in right now. You might be teaching someplace somewhere because she's an educator. So if you are or if you're not, either way, I want to throw the homage out. So someone who's listening, let John know she actually started that. So
That's awesome.
She's the one that started that whole Ola thing. And it just, for whatever reason, we all grew up together, graduated, and it just sort of stuck. And I took it over to Yes and used it. So thank you, John, for letting me rip off your phrase that you didn't invent.
Well, but the phrase continues, though, because it's funny. It must be like, I don't know, like the mojo going on in the production studio. But Phil, who's our production guy now, what does he say? Hola.
Hola, mi llamo Mateo. ¿Y tú?
Yeah.
Mi llamo Juan.
And then Matt speaks fluent Spanish, so, but
No,
it's carried
I
over. Oh, he does know some phrases.
2 years of Spanish, that's all I know right there. Hello, my name is Matt.
Anybody, it's like hola en baño. It seems like baño. Everybody remembers.
Donde está el baño? Yeah, that's pretty important.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. If you can get anything past hola, dude, you got me impressed. It's 2 years of Spanish. Remember none of it.
Nope.
Most of my friends speak fluent Spanish. I was like, huh?
I got friends who
Don't
took
mess with me.
3 or 4 years of
early for that.
Spanish, and they speak fluent Klingon. I don't get it.
Nice. Love that one.
Hey, Chris, we've been reminiscing about your time here, and there was a ton of us who've been on Facebook. Like, the last week has been absolutely insane with everybody chiming in on Facebook and just, history and everything going on. And we've been talking, like, you had heard Back from the Dead from Skillet last week, and that was the first time that you had heard that song, and everybody's like, what? Skillet's, like, all over the place. You're in L.A. Talk about kind of the climate and the culture out there as far as, Christian music and just the scene and how different it is from here in Ohio.
It's very different. I remember April when Jeff and I, all three of us were discussing this last week, first time I was on. I remember when we were all on together, and I think there was a phrase that I would just sort of regurgitate just because it's what we knew by knowledge, but we didn't understand it. Is kind of how I feel about it. I remember saying back then, along with everyone else, that Yes is a rare breed, that it's unique and it's different. It stands by itself. If you hear Yes, you know it. If you scan up and down the Toledo airwaves and you come across Yes FM without looking at the frequency on the dial, you know where you are. It sounds that unique. And since leaving Ohio in 2006, I've lived in Tennessee, I've lived in Florida, and now I live in L.A. Now, Los Angeles being the second largest city, it's the entertainment capital of the world. There's no Yes out here. And the thing that really caught everybody with Skillet and all the radio announcers and everybody connected to Yes this past few days was the fact that, wait. How does Chris not know about this song? It's been out for so long. It came out last year, I think?
Well, the album came out last year. The single has just been released, but, sometimes when we find songs on an album that we know our listeners are going to just go bonkers over, then we will tend to put them on sooner, and that's what we did. So we've actually been playing that song for, about a year now.
Yeah. That's the first time I ever heard that song, and the reason for that is because when we talk about Yes being a unique station, there isn't a Yes FM in Nashville, and there isn't a Yes FM sounding station in Tampa, and there isn't a Yes FM sounding station in Los Angeles. Now, sure, I can pull it up on iHeart, I can pull it up on Pandora, I can pull it up, well, not really Pandora, but I can pull it up on Tuned In, I can pull it up on whatever app that we can pull it up on. But the difference is that when you get into your car and all of a sudden, bam, a radio station kicks in and you're on your way to work, you're not always thinking about turning on an app and using data. You're thinking about, conserving data. If you don't have unlimited data, you kind of listen to local radio stations and stuff. So the fact that you have a former radio host or a former DJ that worked with you for so many years, and all of a sudden it's like this new song to him is brand new, but it's been out for a while. I think that's probably the best example I can think of a radio station that's most influential in Toledo and most influential, and just in the fact that it isn't everywhere. Skillet isn't playing everywhere. It's mainstream and Christian, but you're not going to hear it in every place. It just isn't always available. So So if it makes me look like the village idiot for not necessarily knowing about about that song right away, I'm going to throw my hand up and claim guilty, because that was a song that for me I just heard, and that's because Yes Isn't Out This Way. And, so, I mean, that's probably the sheer testament to the fact that, when you have something sitting that's that powerful like Yes FM sitting in your own backyard and it sounds that unique and that different, you want to hold on and claim that. That's your baby, Yeah, I mean, it was the first time I heard that song altogether, and I loved it. Still listening to it. It's actually still on loop in the car, actually. So, yeah.
Excellent. No, I mean, you're not the village idiot, but it's just, the fact that I'm glad that conversation came up, and why I'm glad because of that, and not to throw you under the bus, brother, because I would never want to do that, because I love you dearly. But it's the fact that, it's like the reaction from some of the people here that are, within the SFM listening in their car is, what? You've never heard of that? Because the concept is so foreign to us that we don't have that. But here's the thing. We take that for granted, and it's so easy to take that for granted, and we don't ever want to take that for granted, because then you've got you out in LA, and we've got several of our DJs, actually a bunch of you landed in LA for some reason, and some across the country, and the fact that you guys don't have that anymore. I mean, sure, you can get on your phone apps, but you made a valid point. You're not always thinking about turning on data when you're barely like functioning in the morning. You're just trying to get to work in one piece, so you bring up the valid point of that, and so I think that's important that people not take that for granted, and that's why I brought it up. It's because let's not take this for granted, you guys. And Chris brings up a great point, and it's the fact that we have this here, and we've had this here for 25 years, and we will continue to have that here if people, stand up with us and they make it their baby, not just, us DJs here and the staff here, but everybody makes it their baby. This is your baby too. On the phone line with us is Chris Shannon, and thanks, Chris, for hanging out with us. Hello. And Chris, so we just heard him from Thousand Foot Crutch, and you were telling me off the air that you have a story about that. So go ahead and dish.
It's probably, I think it was, what was this? I think, when did we have, because we were all back in the mill, and then TFK was with John Rubin. When was that, April? Like 2003, 2004-ish?
I want to say around 2003, 2004, because I think it was shortly after I had my son. Like something like that.
Shortly after, well, it was really goofy because they rolled into town, and so we decided, Trevor and John, the three of us decided we're going to hop in my little red Saturn SC2 I had at the time. We're going to head down to Beaner's, and we're going to head out and grab ourselves a coffee. Well, John took the back seat and thought I was nuts because they had a Striper CD in the back. He could. Thanks for that, John. So he pulled the CD out in the back pouch of the back seat. He was looking. I was like, "What's the Striper CD doing back here?" I was like, "Well, why not?" That kind of thing. But we got to Beaner's, came back again. And poor guy got stuck in the back seat of my Saturn. The car was so small, a little two-seater, and he couldn't get out. He was in there for 15 minutes, and Trevor's trying to work on the seat belt, trying to get it, move the seat up, trying to get all kinds of stuff. And poor John, we just couldn't get him out of the back of the car. And finally, there was nothing worse than seeing the guy who's going to perform later that night. The seat was wedged. We couldn't get the thing to kind of slide up on the passenger side, and so he actually crawled out. I've never seen anybody crawl out of a back seat of a car before, but he actually crawled out on his hands and knees. A poor guy, but every time I hear a Thousand Foot Crutch song, I think of that day, without fail, every single time. So, sorry, John. Sorry about that.
That's the problem, Trevor should have gone in the back seat, because of the fact that John is so tall and lanky. I mean, Trevor's tall too and lanky, but between the two, I think John surpasses him by, several inches.
Yeah, well, it serves you right for picking on my CD, dude. Leave my Striper CD alone. It's to hell with the devil. Come on, man. That CD's legendary.
And we are talking to Chris Shannon, and Chris has got a lot of great memories and a lot of great stories. But yesterday we had Coletta Howe in, who is Jeff's wife, and just an awesome matriarch of Yes FM. I guess she's kind of taken up that mantle, and so they were in talking about them getting married, and the fact that Todd, being a pastor too, had been the one to marry them. We know that Todd has married you and your wife as well. We even have that in the yearbook, and thank you so much for sending us your picture. Talk about that. Of all the people to marry you guys, what was it about Todd that you wanted him to be the one to perform the ceremony?
You know what? It was April. I know all of the former DJs. We can all attest to this. I don't know. I think in all of our, I know in my lifetime, I think there's probably no one person that stands out as like a pure heart of God than Todd. I can't think of anybody else that just has that mindset. Because I know Todd, for instance, he lives it 24/7, and it isn't just necessarily, you get up in front of and it's not to swat against the pastor, it's not to swat against youth leaders, it's not to swat against anybody. I'm just saying for my own self, to know Todd Hostetler is almost firsthand to almost know the heart of God. He's just that way, and I've never known Todd to ever, if he looks shaken and rattled, if in a moment that the rest of us be a little bit whatever, this isn't a Todd demeanor. Todd is always that tuned in and focused. And so for us, my wife and I, we met. I was working at the radio station at the time, and then we were in the Maumee Marketplace. So we were next to the church on Dussel and Reynolds, way back in the day behind the bookstore. Well, Crystal, my wife, was working in the bookstore. I was, of course, working in the radio station, and then we met, started dating through there. And then it was out of that it just made sense for us to have someone that was, that was Todd to really be the one to kind of, marry us into the next level that we have in life right now. Because, Todd being the kind of individual that he is, he actually took us under our wing for a little bit, underneath his wing, just to kind of explain some things before we got married. He wanted to sit down. He and Donna, his wife, got together with us, and we went out for dinner one night and just discussed and talked, and, kind of really prepare us for the next phase. So for Todd, it was he got together with us and then, came to our house. And so he actually married us there. I had a sick grandmother at the time that we were hoping would be able to make it to our wedding. And we actually moved the wedding way up to hopefully include her. And she passed 2 weeks before, but we went through with the wedding anyway. And so, that's essentially where the whole thing came together with Todd. But yeah, I mean, I have a serious fondness when it comes to Todd. I think if anybody that can have a mentor in life, even though there's a 3-hour time lapse between us, even though there's many states in between, East Coast versus West Coast, however that goes, I think Todd in my life will always be a mentor in that respect. And so for that, just touching the heart of God, I think Todd was that. And so to marry the two of us, he's our guy.
And on the phone line has been Chris Shannon. Hi, Chris.
Good morning. I do. It's funny. I hear the name Phil. I think Spanish now.
Hola.
Thanks, guys.
Now we've wrecked you.
Haven't even met him yet.
Yeah. So when you come to visit and you meet Phil, you guys can go off in Spanish and it'll be epic.
I'll get as far as hola. After that, I was like, huh?
I can barely speak English right.
That's true. That is true.
Well, speaking of epic, okay, during your heyday here, you got together with a bunch of different people and you produced some incredible stuff. It was so much fun to hear some of the stuff from wrestling days. But you sent us another audio file, and this is titled Yes FM OSU. Okay, so tell us what is this about? Set it up. Let us know what's going on. Oh, you're laughing. This is going to be good.
Of course I'm laughing. Well, you know what? I gotta let's say I miss being out that way. During the big annual border war battle. I miss all that stuff. So for me, I'm kind of getting caught up in a way. So for being on with you guys, last week I had something to say about OSU Michigan. Today I have something to say about OSU Michigan, and we saved the OSU Michigan thing until the end because I didn't want to turn Michigan people off. But like that would never happen. But we actually we had a house party that was OSU Michigan related because we had the game coming. And it was in November, and so here comes a house party in the mill. And so it was one of those moments when I remember when this thing was put together, it was all edited, it was arranged. And the first time this thing fired, Jay Wagner was on the air, and he heard that thing, and he kept yelling at me. He goes, dude, that is so biased. And I was like, yeah, what's your point? And Jeff walked in, and Jeff himself was like, yeah, and? So we left it the way that it was, and you get things like this when you're an OSU fan, and you're kidding with the other team, because I was notorious for calling Michigan fans weasels back then. That was just the way that it was. But
I wear my weasel proudly, baby.
Watch yourself.
And I think in the years, I left Yes in 2006, and I think Michigan won one game since. It's 2017. It's been 11 years.
Unfortunately, yep.
So you can leave that and take it any way you want to. But that was because of the big game coming that weekend. This was the commercial spot, I guess you can say, that came out of that.
All right, let's go ahead and play it. Let everybody hear it.
The opinions expressed in this announcement are correct and are those of Yes FM. The Ohio State Buckeyes are better than the Michigan Weasels, and Wolverine fans know better. So to prove it, Friday night, November 18th, at the Friday Night House Party, we're having an OSU Michigan Border War Party to get ready for the big game.
Go Buckeyes! Hail to the victors, valiant.
All right, fine. You want some hail? Cue the hail!
Go Buckeyes!
Admission to the house party is free, open to 12 and older, and broadcast live on Yes FM.
I remember that house party. I remember being there.
Franklin,
and
too.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. Ben Franklin. It's so much fun
Yep,
because
he's a
when you
Buckeyes
get,
guy. He was in the back.
when you get Ben on, I mean, Ben's like one of the most unassuming guys, and, he's kind of quiet. And working with him is fun, though, because once you really get to know him, then you see the other side of him. And then, of course, he was always food in hand whenever, we were getting together with him.
Yep,
But
exactly.
That's great.
That was always one thing about Ben Franklin too, because he was a production assistant back at the time that he and I were kind of back in our heyday with Yes. And there wasn't one thing that would be even it can be the smallest detail. If there was the tiniest detail, man, he was right all over it. He picked that thing up. Nothing. Ben Franklin, if you're listening into this right now, dude, you were a rock as production assistant. There wasn't one detail that went untouched.
I know.
If nothing fell through the cracks nothing fell through the cracks in production with him working, in production. So I was always so impressed with him on that.
Yeah, and I appreciated that too because I'll admit this. You had been here for like 10 years, and to come in and fill your shoes, those were some pretty big shoes to fill. I know that you don't have terribly large feet, but to have him there and kind of like it was like not a crutch, but to have that support coming into that was just so awesome, and then to have him, he was around for a few more years when I was production director, and just to have that constant and that steadiness, man, I tell you what, it made the job so much easier. So Ben, love your bro, so much appreciated that. Yeah. And, my husband also had the opportunity to work with him too, and we'll both say the same thing. It was so nice just having that he was a calming presence, a very calming presence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Frank was one of those guys. You can come in, and if you had there were a couple of moments I would come in and have a little bit of an off morning, and Frank was always with a smile on his face. There was always that moment when he's just like, yeah, because you can't always be on. I mean, let's be real. You can't always be on. So. Yeah, I mean, occasionally you come in, you start your day off a little bit off sideways or something, and you're kind of like, oh, geez. And then Frank is in there, and all of a sudden, the place just lifts. It's like Frank never had a bad day, and I always loved him for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Chris, we thank you so much for hanging out with us. If anything... Before we let you go, dude, is there anything that you want to impart to our listeners, maybe just encourage them or whatever? What are some closing thoughts from Mr. Chris Shannon?
I do. I think and this is going to probably sound a little more heartfelt compared to like the rest of the hour that we've had, but it's funny. I think everybody talks about the station and the fact that it's been around all these years and giving money so the station can stay on. When I was a kid growing up, I was very, very shy, and I mentioned this on social media a few days ago. I was painfully shy as a kid. And so this radio station comes along, and here comes this opportunity where, the station listeners step up and the station stayed on all this time. But you know how much it means to someone who, when they're shy when they're young and they grow into a profession, and it's because of a radio station, it's because of the giving that you as listeners have done, and we're all sitting back, we're reminiscing, we're talking about the background of all of our histories and everything. But for those who have given in the background and historically have given, it's a heartfelt thank you from Chris too, because this is one of those things that you gave me a future. I know Saint It's Real, they appreciate everything because we help put them on the map. This Beautiful Republic comes around, and so we had a lot of bands that were just sort of like rooted out of that area that just sort of, if it wasn't for the giving that you did, and if it wasn't for Yes still being on the air, these opportunities were born. And, I know that there's going into the future that there's going to be more local bands coming up. There's going to be more DJs who are going to have their careers forged. There's going to be more people that are going to get a chance to launch whatever it is they're going to be doing. But their plan and purpose that God had for them, they actually stepped into, it was because of you. So when giving, you're giving towards a radio station too, but I'm also thankful too because you gave it and you sowed it in all of us. You're sowing it into April, you're sowing it into Jeff, you're sowing it into Matt, you're sowing it into Phil, you're sowing it into... So whoever's connected to Yes right now, you're really imparting something into them because it isn't just giving towards a radio station, but you're really sowing it into your life as a listener and into the lives of them as the station staff. So that's a thank you in advance from Chris. That's a thank you for the history that you've had with us together, all the friends that we've kept in touch with throughout the years. Yes, it's 25th anniversary, their silver anniversary. It's I can't. When I think back of Yes, I think back with such a fondness And it's because the staff that we worked alongside with, and it's because the mission that they had. So just, I think if anything else, it's a humongous thank you just from the bedrock of my heart, just going out to all of you. I may be living on the West Coast, but my thoughts are always in Ohio. Always in Ohio, and I think it shows through even on social media. So thank you for your giving and going forward, and for the radio station. I know Jeff and April and Phil and Matt, everyone appreciates and everyone connected to the staff. And so when they say that God will bless you, it's stories like this, I think, that would really inspire somebody else. That's going to carve and forge someone's future for them. And you're really the one doing that. So thank you in advance.
Thanks, Chris. We appreciate that.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, April.
Thank you so much, Chris. We're going to go ahead and pray, and I don't know if you want to pray, Chris, or you would rather me do it, but I'll go ahead and pray over this hour.
I can do that if you'd like.
Yeah, would you, Chris? That would be awesome.
Yeah. So, God, it's been a long time since you and I have met on Yes, and I thank you for the time that I've had. I thank you for my friends that I've had to leave behind along the way. And God, I think it's in these moments now when Yes is in a moment when they're facing they're at the end of their day and they're in their Sharathon with great excitement. We all look forward to the future, and we know that there's a great future for Yes. And we know that there's another 25 years right on the other side of this prayer. And Father, I thank you for all the listeners. I thank you that there's something resonating with their hearts right now, their hearts and minds. That there's an ownership that comes along with a radio station like Yes, because we've out of the Skillet story, a station like Yes is incredibly rare. It's a rare find. It's a jewel. And Father, I thank you for all the listeners this week. That you bless them, you be with them. I thank you for blessing my friends at Yes, the staff, the station itself, right down to the mechanics of the transmitter towers and how everything works, the automation. Father, thank you for imparting something new, and thank you for doing something that's so fresh that it's going to just shock everybody. But we do thank you for the history. We thank you for the future that the station is going in, and the fact that we're all connected with it. And Father, thank you once again for blessing everyone connected, for touching hearts and lives, and for being there and doing only what you can do. We thank you for it. In Jesus' name, pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Chris. We appreciate it.